So a refrigerant is any substance that can change state from a liquid to vapor and absorb heat, and from a vapor to a liquid and reject heat. So any refrigerant is a substance. There is a refrigerant that's very popular, it's called R718. And R718 is probably the most environmentally friendly refrigerant in the world, but it does cause 320,000 deaths worldwide, and it's the third leading cause of deaths in the world. So it's pretty significant. Even though it's the safest refrigerant in the world, it still causes a lot of deaths. The Navy actually uses this refrigerant as their primary propulsion system, and it's actually called water for us that we know it, or dihydrogen monoxide, H2O. So the reason I said it like that is because you're going to hear people say something bad about every single refrigerant coming out, because you can word anything to sound bad, but this is water. R718 is water. And what's cool is, just like we learned, we can manipulate water. It's a refrigerant by manipulating its pressure. We can actually map that with the temperature pressure chart for water. I can actually make water boil at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. I can make it boil at the freezing temperature by having it at a pressure of 0.147 psi atmospheric pressure, which would be a measurement of 29.74 inches of vacuum. So that's what we have a whole chart. We can see exactly what temperature water will boil at through these charts. So it's called the temperature pressure chart. The problem is, to make water boil, it has what we call a high boiling point. In other words, it boils at 212 degrees. To make it boil at a lower temperature, I have to put the pressure very, very low to make that happen. So it's a lot of work to make water be used as a refrigerant. Although for evaporative coolers, it does work great as long as your humidity is low, but not well in a refrigeration system. So let's talk about a few other refrigerants. Here we have one of the most popular refrigerants in the world, and it's called HCFC22. Now I want to make a little pause here. Now HCFC22, nobody says when you go to a supply house. If you're going in to get a jug of this refrigerant, say, yeah, I need a jug of R22. I need a cylinder of R22. Nobody really says, I need a jug of HCFC R22. However, I'm saying it like this because for your EPA tests, they say everything related to HCFCs. So if you start associating this as an HCFC now, and they start asking questions about an HCFC, you'll already have that connected in your mind. And the HCFC stands for hydrochlorofluorocarbon. It's an HCFC. It's that chloro in it that makes it a bit of an issue. This refrigerant has an ozone, or is ozone depleting, which means it has an issue with putting a hole in the atmosphere. So back in 1987, they said, hey, we're doing away with this refrigerant. We're not going to make it anymore. In 2020, you can still recycle it, but you can't make any of this refrigerant new. Back in 1991 and 92, you had to take a test saying you knew it ever since then that this refrigerant was going away and you cannot vent it into the air. Fast forward to 2020, they stopped making it. Everybody freaks out. Now we're in 2021. People are all upset. Why are you taking my refrigerant away? It's a great refrigerant. I like the refrigerant, but times change. We have to adapt to it. So this refrigerant is going away. It's still available as of the time of this video recording, but it is being in limited production, which means the price goes up and up and up and up on this refrigerant. But it's an HCFC22. It's very popular. It has a low boiling point. We can actually map this out at 0 psi gauge. At atmospheric pressure, this refrigerant boils at approximately minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which means if I was to turn this upside down where liquid refrigerant come out and open this valve, which is illegal and you should never do that according to the EPA, and they will fine you, or could fine you anyways, and destroy the ozone layer. So if we were to open this up minus 40 degrees, if I was to put my hand in front of this, let this liquid refrigerant hit my hand, it'd be at minus 40 degrees, which would literally freeze my hand and cause severe damage, frostbite. It would be a huge issue. So we want to make sure that this refrigerant never comes out on our body parts or anything else. This refrigerant should only be inside of a sealed system, and if it is leaking in that sealed system, we should fix it. We're going to talk much more about that later. Very popular refrigerant, great refrigerant, but it is going away. So we're talking about our next most common refrigerant, our next most popular refrigerant in the world as of right now is HFC-410A, and that stands for a hydrofluorocarbon. There's no chlorine in there, so it's not ozone depleting. However, it does have a very high global warming potential. Now, regardless of your political beliefs or anything else, it is questions on the EPA test, and it's still illegal to vent any refrigerant, no matter what it is. So at one time, we called this environmentally friendly refrigerant. Then we found that it had a global warming potential. So now eventually this refrigerant is going to be going away. It is still the new refrigerant, although it's been around pretty much my entire career. So to me, it's an old refrigerant as well. This refrigerant, A lot of people don't like it because it has higher pressures, but ultimately we can control the pressures by controlling the temperatures. To give you an example, this refrigerant right here, if I was to turn it upside down and open the valve, which I will not do, and you should not do either because it's illegal, and dangerous. If I was to open this valve, refrigerant's going to come out. It's going to boil at minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's going to be even more less heated or colder than the other refrigerant would be. So it's a very powerful refrigerant, and it also can be very dangerous because it will also freeze your hand and cause severe frostbite. But this refrigerant is also a great refrigerant when it's done right. It has a different oil, and the reason that most people really ultimately hate it, not only because of change, because there's some more careful and care you have to take with these oils. But we're going to talk more about refrigerants a little bit later on. The next refrigerant I want to bring up to you, and it's a very popular refrigerant, probably my favorite refrigerant, is this right here. This refrigerant is R290. This refrigerant is a flammable refrigerant, and you might know it as propane and propane accessories. But this refrigerant here is flammable. There should only be two things in a refrigeration system. There should be refrigerant and refrigerant oil. To have a fire, you must have oxygen. Did I say oxygen should be in a refrigeration system? No, I did not. Now, it doesn't mean you can just be using propane in any system. It has to be designed for it, and you have to know the safety precautions and everything about how to work for it and with it. But if you know those and take the course for it and are fully prepared for it, respect it, don't be afraid of it. It's a great refrigerant used properly and legally. Now this refrigerant, I want to show you this one because I can't open the other ones and bleed them. But this refrigerant at 0 psig boils at minus 44. So it's a higher boiling point than the 410A, and it's a lower boiling point than R22. So we can see this one. This refrigerant also has an older style valve. So the new ones, you open the valve, nothing comes out. This one, we can actually show you what happens when we turn it into a liquid refrigerant, and you can see the liquid refrigerant coming out. So it's educational purposes, if you will. Let's see what happens. All right, so for safety reasons, we went to a complete different safety site, and we're going to actually show you what happens when the liquid propane hits. We got an example of a piece of weed and a thermometer that will probably break, but it is made of alcohol, not mercury. So let's see what happens. We get a little liquid refrigerant. And there it is. Don't get your fingers in front of it.